rest was a really big theme for me in the book that stood out, and I'm not sure whether that's just my headspace at the moment, but I thought, wow, she talks a lot about feeling exhausted by things and needing time to rest and to play Sims and to watch Netflix. And her dad, you also reference, has had his own difficulties with some mental health issues after an accident, and being on a disability pension now. So whereas like her sister Harriet and her mum are very much go 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 all the time kind of people, whereas Zoe is not. So can you tell us a bit more about the role that rest plays in your world, and what can happen if an autistic person doesn't rest enough? And obviously recognizing that that experience will be different for every person with autism.
Yeah, of course. But I think a lot of autistic people are going to be very aware and familiar with the idea of burnout and what can happen, and how, I guess, how easy it can be to end up there in a state of burnout, which is, your ability to function in the world starts, the capacity of what you're able to do starts to decrease as you get it's sort of burnt out, and then it can be really hard to climb back out of that. So I gave Zoe a lot more sort of self-awareness in this space than I probably even have now, around knowing when to rest and knowing what her support needs are in order to be able to move through the world in a way that isn't burning her out or emotionally, stressing her. Just trying to live a life that works for her autistic self, as opposed to trying to fit herself into sort of neurotypical expectations, or there's that kind of culture of hustle culture, like the more you're doing the better. You've got a job, and then when you're not at your job, you're also, you've got a side business, or you're doing this. Like, people value that, I think, more than they value rest. Or maybe the pandemic's changing things a little bit there, I'm not sure. But I wanted in their family unit to explore that sort of busyness as a sort of self-motivator and a sense of pride versus, there's two people in her family who are disabled, her and her father. So for them, rest is something that needs to happen. Like it's non-negotiable, I guess. So that was a sort of choice that I made, because I sometimes find myself, I guess, comparing my output or my ability to keep up with other people's standards of what they're able to achieve, and not necessarily coming out of that feeling positive. And then I realized that's an internalized ableism of years of not knowing this about the way my brain works, and feeling guilty about rest, which kind of defeats the purpose of rest, I feel like. That was definitely something that was on my mind as I was writing it, and probably even more so as I edited it as we started a pandemic. And it's kind of easy to feel like if you're never alone, you never get a rest. I think that's another thing, is loneliness was something that I wanted to tackle, because she is, her best friend has moved to the other side of the world. She's in a new environment, both with her internship and at university. So she's feeling sort of out of place and lonely, and just how that stacks up with or compares with the need to be alone as an autistic person, like the need to sort of decompress and be alone. And that can exist at the same time as sort of social loneliness or desire for more connection, and just how those two things sort of balance with each other.
Yeah, I found that really interesting, because that's certainly something that resonated for me. You can have that sense of, I need to get out of here but at the same time, then you can start to feel lonely. That certainly resonated a lot with me with Zoe.